Hello everyone, welcome to today's session where we're going to continue our discussion of the essay on the pleasures of no longer being very young by G.K. Chesterton. As we have already read in the previous session, that how logically Chesterton put forward his arguments in the favor of the advantages or real advantages of old age. So now let's proceed our reading of his further views in the favor of the true benefits of advancing years, where he is beginning with the example. For instance, we have just seen a staggering turn of the wheel of fortune, which has brought all the modern material pride and prosperity to a standstill. These lines are a clear indication towards the great economic depression of 1930s, which after which the new industrial economies collapsed badly, as it was a shocking turn of events for the modern progress. America, which a year or two ago seemed to have become one vast El Dorado, studded with cities of gold, is almost as much embarrassed as England, and really much more embarrassed than Ireland. So, America, which was progressing due to its industrial growth, but after this failure of modern industrial world, it has become so humiliated. And America, which was considered as El Dorado. El Dorado is a place of fabulous wealth and opportunity. So it was the status of America, but after this economic depression, it has become humiliated or embarrassed as England. England has also come to fall after World War II. It was the fall of British imperialistic empire. It became embarrassed, and really much more embarrassed than Ireland. Here this comparison is made to Ireland is perhaps because Ireland is the poorest country of Europe. So here with the examples, what Chesterton is trying to say, that the modern progress on which the modern generation having when they did it, they were having so much pride in themselves that they are progressing more than their ancestors, and they used to watch their ancestors or seniors with a pity look, because they it was their thinking at their youth, and usually it is in youth or in young age, as we have already discussed, that it is a tendency of human nature in young age, when they watch their ancestors or seniors just like miserable and unhappy creatures, because they think that they have passed their life without the benefits of modern progress, and it is they who are actually reaping the benefits of progress, and they feel they are progressive, but yes, it is good they are progressive, but they come when they feel pity, or when they don't understand the spirit of the practical wisdom in the old proverbs and history or historical facts, or they don't learn from the history, then it is then the problem starts. So towards which Chesterton is pointing out here. So they embarrassed then Ireland, and it was the fall of America, which Chesterton has very clearly is very clearly telling that the modern progress is not unmixed blessing, or we can say it is a mixed blessing. It is mixed with its own defects, and when it collapses, it entails widespread misery, and it was very much evident in the fall of this so-called, or we can say modern, very much modern industrial progressive world. The industrial countries are actually finding it difficult to be industrial, while he's as it was written in 1931. So he's now strengthening his argument by this, that while the old agricultural countries still find it possible to be industrious, that in the comparison of industrial area or industrial department or industrial economy, old agricultural countries which are adhering to the old agricultural ways, or which are on their which are believing, or which are understanding the spirit of the old or practical wisdom lying in the history, or which history has taught them, they are still successful in being active and productive. possible to be industrious, that old agricultural countries still find it possible to be industrious. They have still maintained themselves up till now. They are still progressive, they are still industrious, means they are still active and productive. Now I do not pretend to have prophesied or expected this, for a man may cheerfully call a thing rotten without really expecting it to rot. So now Chesterton is saying that he's saving himself by saying this, that I will not pretend, I will not show off to that I have I'm prophesying something, or I'm expecting that this modern progress is bound to or it was in the fate, or it was in the it is very usual when modern progress comes to an end. It is I'm not prophesying anything, or I'm not expecting such things, but it is very much evident by the facts that whenever man suffering from his hubris or from his arrogant attitude, he just ignore the practical wisdom or ignore the historical facts which are for his lessons, or which from which man is supposed to learn, then only he is bound to false. But he is not claiming here, he is saying, because it is also man's tendency, that he may cheerfully call a thing rotten without really expecting it to rot, that without any really, or without practically watching the durability of anything. It is the tendency of man, especially in young age, when they declare something is very rotten, stale and stiff, as in the case of proverbs and historical truthful facts. But neither certainly did the young, the progressive, the prosperous, or the adventurous expect it. Yet all history and culture is stiff with proverbs. At first we should discuss this line. But neither certainly did the young, the progressive, the prosperous, or the adventurous expect it. That they don't and here Chesterton is saying that young people also don't expect this or don't think about this negative side of the coin. Okay, so in this way they don't expect it. They when they are in their progressive phase, they are in prosperous and adventurous, in their adventurous attitude or mood, they don't see the things in their entirety. They just they are inclined to watch one aspect of the life or one aspect of the things, and that's why they don't expect the pros and cons, all the aspects of their decisions or whatever the things or adventures they are on. The trouble is that, so yet all history and culture is stiff with proverbs and prophecies telling them to expect it. But yet there are so many evidences and proverbs and prophecies and historical facts which are indicating that yes, you should expect those negative or those other aspects which you are not paying attention now, because you are in the mood of very progressive, because you the fall or the collapse of or the America's downfall is the big example which Chesterton has already given here, that they are just compelling you to think over those aspects too, as it is not a guarantee of the progress. If you are in your phase of youth, then it is not necessary that your ventures are always successful. But there are other aspect of the things we are able to see it in old age only, after certain experiences. Though we know the proverb, though we know the prophecies, we are familiar with everything. So how it happens, Chesterton has very interestingly and very beautifully described. He has described in the further lines. We are going to read them. The trouble is that they thought the proverbs and history a great deal too stiff, that they are unpliable, they are stale, they don't appear. Actually, these proverbs and history don't appeal to them until they experience them. And after their experience, it becomes suddenly alive to them, that yes, they are true. Again and again, with monotonous reiteration, both my young friends and myself had been told from childhood. So again and again, so what youth find that these statements are just monotonous reiteration, like these are just very tiresome repetition. We are tired of listening these same things, such as, so now he Chesterton is giving his personal example or personal illustrations, that how he and his friends were told, and everybody, usually everybody is familiar with these certain kind of proverbs in their, from their childhood. They listen it from their elders, which kind of proverbs or which kind of wisdom they listen, that fortune is fickle. Everybody knows, everybody learn this from the very format, in their very formative years. Fortune is fickle, fortune is capricious, it is unpredictable, that riches take to themselves wings and fly, that riches are not certain, they are not permanent, and they are just like riches. It means the wealth is just like a bird which have wings and it can fly if you are not careful. That power can depart suddenly from the powerful, and this also we listen, that power is not certain, it is now yours and the next day it can belong to anybody, that pride goes before a fall. And this also we listen when we are told that if you are very much conceited or overconfident about your ability, then something will happen which will show you that you are not as good as you think. And insolence attracts the thunderbolt of the gods, and insolence, the arrogant attitude, or we can say excessive pride, what it does, it attracts the misfortune. But it was all unmeaning to us, and all the proverbs seemed stiff and stale, and we always find them that what is this, we always listen, and we have to always quote these in our notebooks or in our essays, and our elders also usually quote it time and again, but they are meaningless, they are so stale, they are so unpliable, they have lost their vitality, like dusty labels or neglected antiquities. So what is the general tendency of humans in their young age, that they find that the knowledge handed down to them from generation to generation is meaningless, or it has lost its vitality. And this impatient youth or young people, these modern impatient young people, as they as it is always, it always happens that young people are modern than their, and they are called modern than their ancestors or their elders. So these modern impatient young people often dismiss this practical wisdom, which they find stale and without any spirit, like dusty labels on neglected antiquities, like they have become old now, they will not work now. We had heard of the fall of Wolsey. Now he is giving further more examples and historical facts in the reference to these above proverbs, to prove that we learn, we listen all these proverbs, but what actually happens in the, what have actually happened in the history, that we don't learn from the history. In history there are so many, history is replete with such examples which are the consequence of the follies of not understanding these proverbs. Actually, we have heard of the fall of Wolsey. Wolsey is Wolsey is Thomas Wolsey, the British political figure and cardinal of Roman Catholic Church. He was cardinal of Roman Catholic Church during the reign of Henry VIII, and he was the one who was low-born, but he rose to highest position, but also had a sudden fall. He also sudden he fall from his power very soon, which was like the crash of his fall was like the crash of a huge palace, still faintly rumbling through the ages. But we know this fact that fall of Wolsey. We are very much aware about this. We had read of it in the words of Shakespeare, which possibly were not written by Shakespeare. Now here Chesterton is saying that Wolsey, the fall of Thomas Wolsey is mentioned in the play, Shakespeare's play Henry VIII, and there is also controversy about this play Henry VIII, as critics don't consider it to be written by Shakespeare. So this also fact he is imparting here. Chesterton is mentioning that which possibly were not written by Shakespeare, but it is in the words of Shakespeare. In Henry VIII there was mention of Wolsey, which describes about the fall of or downfall of Wolsey from power. We had learned them and learned nothing from them. So we had learned them and learned nothing from them, that we are well aware, we were taught these all the facts, but we have learned, we have not made use of them in our practical life. Practically we have not used them, we just know them but we don't use them. We had for our own good, we had read 10,000 times to the point of tedium of the difference between the Napoleon of Marengo and the Napoleon of Moscow. But we should never have expected Moscow if we had been looking at Marengo. So here he is saying that we have we have read about the Napoleon from our in the or from our previous or in the from our very childhood, we can say we have so many things, or multiple times we have been taught about Napoleon of Marengo, and we have been told that it was that one of the greatest victories of Napoleon was when he won the Battle of Marengo. It was the time when he was at the threshold of his fame, but he was at the end of his fame during his advance, or when he was forwarding towards Moscow during the Battle of Moscow. So we have been told the difference between Napoleon of Marengo and Napoleon of Moscow. His victory and failures, we are well aware that about all the phases of life. But during the young age, this Marengo, this phase of Marengo only we learn, and this phase of Moscow we usually ignore. But when we complete our venture and when we face the defeat or fall, then only we can understand this Napoleon of Moscow, which is a representation of defeat or fall. But we should never have expected Moscow if we had been looking at, but while during our youthful years, while looking at Marengo, we don't expect Moscow, the fall. We knew that Charles V resigned his crown, and we knew about Charles V, who was one of the greatest emperor of Holy Roman Empire, and he was the same who resigned his crown in the favor of his brother, or that Charles I, who lost his head, who was tried and executed or beheaded. And we should have duly remarked, and after learning all these things, it is our habit that we remark usually, sic transit gloria mundi, which means that thus passes away earthly glory. We usually mention or remark this, that thus passes away earthly glory, that these people don't understand anything, these people were knowing that fortune is fickle and pride is not certain, riches are not certain, but then too and hubris is the cause of fall. But then too these people became victim of not taking the entire picture in their view. But what we do after the incident, but not before it, we remark this that thus passes away the earthly glory. But when anything happened to us, when we face all the fall, or when like in the downfall of America and this denigration of Wolsey fall of Napoleon, and the crash of many empires like Roman and Spanish Empire. Only after that this truth of this life, the life that victory and failure go hand in hand, it appeared to dawn upon us when we also pass certain stage of life, when we also face the same consequence which history is telling us, which history is warning us to the danger of these follies. But we understand it, but after the incident, but not before it. We had been told that the Roman Empire declined or that the Spanish Empire disintegrated, but no German ever really applied it to the German Empire, and no Britain to the British Empire. So this is very evident that empires flourish and they denigrate or they degenerate. So this we have read, we usually read this in history, and but then too, why then dictators come and go? Dictators come and go, then to where they have also read that empires go and back, it is not certain. So this is the proof that people, especially in their young age, they don't learn from anything from history, they just learn it from after certain experience in their life, in their old age. The very repetition of these truths will sound like the old interminable repetition of the truisms. And repetition and these well-known facts of history, these truthful facts are well known to us, but they are repeated in the history. History is evident, they are repeated, so they seem like interminable, incessant, or without any interruption. There is a repetition of truisms. Truisms means self-evident truth or obvious truth. These obvious or self-evident truth are interminably repeated, and still it is going on, and it is because that young people fail to see the things in their entirety, and they also fall victim of those same mistakes which their seniors or ancestors they also became victim. Ancestors became victim of the same follies, but they also learnt after getting certain age, or in their with the growing age, or in their old age. And yet they are to me. So Chesterton is saying that yet they are to me at this moment when I have become old. At this moment, these old proverbs and historical facts are like amazing, startling discoveries, for I have lived to see the dead proverbs come alive, because I have lived a certain age, and I have lived that those supposedly dead proverbs, how they come home, how they come alive. No, that's why Chesterton is writing this essay, that it is a fact that youth is such an age when man doesn't realize the certain truths which he realizes in his old age. So at this point I am wrapping up today's session. We will continue this session, or we will continue this essay in the following session. Hopefully we'll complete this essay in the next lecture. Thank you for now.